Hello and welcome to Newsweek South Asia, your one-stop destination for in-depth analysis of security challenges, regional conflicts, and the evolving threat of terrorism. Let's take a look at the headlines first. India urges SCO member states to take a united and uncompromising stand against terrorism. BLF's Operation Bomb shakes Pakistan's control over Balochistan. And ICC warrant against Taliban leaders marks global action on gender persecution in Afghanistan. At a time when global power centers are shifting and regional flashpoints continue to dominate diplomatic agendas, India is once again leading from the front. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has concluded a critical visit to China for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Foreign Ministers meeting. From calling out on terrorism in Pahalgam to flagging barriers in trade and connectivity, Jaishankar made it clear that India will cooperate but not compromise. Here's a full report on how New Delhi steered the SCO back to its core agenda. In a region still reeling from strategic tensions and security setbacks, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar's first visit to China since 2020 carried deep diplomatic weight. Representing India at the SCO Foreign Ministers meeting in Tianjin, Jaishankar set the tone for constructive dialogue, but also made it clear that India's core concerns could not be brushed aside. At the SCO plenary, Jaishankar's intervention was firm and focused. He reminded member states of the organization's founding mission and warned against selective silence. Jaishankar called on the member nations to take an uncompromising and united stance against what he referred to as the three evils: terrorism, separatism, and extremism. Stressing the real and urgent threat these forces continue to pose, Jaishankar cited the April 22nd terror attack in Pahalgam as a stark example.
SCO was founded to combat terrorism, separatism, and extremism. Not surprisingly, they often occur together. Recently, we in India witnessed a graphic example in the terrorist attack in Pahalgam on 22nd April 2025. It was deliberately conducted to undermine the tourism economy of Jammu and Kashmir while sowing a religious divide.
The Pahalgam attack, which claimed 26 lives, was not only an assault on civilians and religious harmony, but a calculated attempt to destabilize Kashmir's thriving tourism economy. India's tough position at SCO follows its decision to not sign the previous SCO joint statement that failed to even mention the attack, signaling a growing frustration with selective silence within the bloc. While Jaishankar didn't directly name Pakistan, his remarks were an unmistakable reference to Islamabad's role in fostering terror networks that continue to threaten India's sovereignty and regional peace. He warned that failure to act decisively would amount to a betrayal of the SCO's foundational mission.
The UN Security Council, of which some here are currently members, issued a statement that condemned it in the strongest terms and, quote, underlined the need to hold perpetrators, organizers, financiers, and sponsors of this reprehensible act of terrorism accountable and bring them to justice, unquote. We have since done exactly that and will continue doing so. It is imperative that the SCO, to remain true to its founding objectives, take an uncompromising position on this challenge.
India's message at the SCO was not limited to counter-terrorism. Jaishankar reiterated New Delhi's commitment to constructive engagement, highlighting India's leadership in areas like startups, digital public infrastructure, traditional medicine, and innovation. He said, India remains open to new proposals that genuinely promote collective progress. He also flagged a key economic hurdle, the lack of assured transit within the SEO region. Jaishankar emphasized the need for strengthening regional connectivity and called for active promotion of the international North-South transport corridor to boost trade and investment.
Deepening collaboration within the SCO naturally requires more trade, investment, and exchanges. For that to move to the next level, it is imperative that we address some current issues. One of them is the lack of assured transit within the SCO space. Its absence undermines the seriousness of advocating cooperation in economic areas. Another is to ensure the promotion of the International North-South Transport Corridor, INSTC. We are confident that it will continue to gather momentum.
The foreign minister's message extended to the humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan, urging SEO members to increase development assistance. Regional stability, he noted, goes hand in hand with the well-being of the Afghan people, a nudge to nations like China and Pakistan, who have often viewed Afghanistan more as a strategic pawn than a humanitarian concern. On the sidelines of the SEO meeting, Jaishankar met with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi. This was his first visit to China since the deadly 2020 Galban clash that soured bilateral ties. Jaishankar acknowledged recent progress in de-escalating tensions along the line of actual control, but emphasized that further steps were needed.
We have made good progress in the past 9 months for the normalization of our bilateral relations. It is the result of the resolution of friction along the border and our ability to maintain peace and tranquility there. This is the fundamental basis of our mutual strategic trust and for smooth development of bilateral relations. It is now incumbent on us to address other aspects related to the border, including de-escalation.
Beyond diplomacy, India highlighted its leadership in technology, innovation, and digital public infrastructure. Jaishankar said India's engagement with SEO would continue in a spirit of mutual respect and territorial integrity, indirectly cautioning against China's disregard for established norms. In a major development, the International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants for 2 senior Taliban leaders, accusing them of crimes against humanity in connection with the systematic persecution of women and girls in Afghanistan. The ICC's decision marks the first time gender-based oppression in the country has been formally recognized as grounds for international legal action. The move is being seen as a critical step in holding the Taliban accountable for policies that have effectively erased women from Afghan public life. Since returning to power in August 2021, the Taliban have imposed one of the harshest regimes for women in the modern era. Afghan women have been systematically stripped of their rights. Amid this grim reality, the International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants for 2 senior Taliban leaders, Hebatullah Akhundzada, the group's supreme leader, and Abdul Hakim Haqqani, Chief Justice of the Taliban's de facto regime. The court noted that there are reasonable grounds to believe the 2 leaders ordered and enforced policies that deprived Afghan women and girls of basic human rights, including access to education, employment, public life, freedom of movement, and expression. The arrest warrants relate to actions carried out between the Taliban's return to power in August 2021 and January 2025, when the ICC's chief prosecutor officially filed the case.
I think very important. For the first time, ICC is taking a position on gender issue, and this should be appreciated. Particularly considering the fact that in Afghanistan, a lot of gender-related issues are now coming up. Women are being marginalized. They are not being allowed to go to schools after class 6. They are not allowed to go to public. A woman in Afghanistan cannot go out on her own. She has to be accompanied with a male member. So these kind of a thing which was going on in Afghanistan, and many of us were very critical about it. I am glad that ICC has finally taken a note of it and issued a very strict, a warning against these people.
Since their return to power, the Taliban have issued more than 80 edicts curbing women's rights. These include bans on secondary and higher education for girls, prohibition on women working in most sectors, and restrictions on their presence in public places such as parks, gyms, and sports clubs. Female journalists have been silenced, and laws that once offered protection from violence, forced marriage, and abuse have been suspended. For many Afghan women, daily life has become a struggle for basic existence under a government that refuses to recognize their identity. A 2024 Afghanistan Gender Index released by UN Women and supported by the EU revealed that nearly 80% of young Afghan women are not in education, employment, or training. The report further highlighted that no women currently serve in any formal decision-making positions under the Taliban's de facto administration.
Afghan women are marginalized to an extent possible by the Taliban. They have a very different kind of understanding about women. They are not allowing even the girls to be in school. Forget about the colleges and universities. They are not allowed to be a part of any jobs. Earlier and before Taliban, the women of Afghanistan were doing well. There's no one who is in the cabinet. There is no voices of the women right now in Afghanistan. And moreover, the way they are implementing all those rules, it's becoming impossible.
In June 2025, a United Nations report accused the Taliban of turning Afghanistan's justice system into a tool of oppression. It cited the suspension of laws that once protected women from violence, including rape and forced marriage.
At the same time, the international community remains.
International agencies and humanitarian organizations have also raised concerns over threats received by female UN staff members and the obstruction of women-led NGOs and aid missions. Amnesty International has urged the global community to classify the Taliban's actions as gender apartheid and recognize such systems as violations of international law.
Now ICC has given a verdict, and this will help other international organizations to formulate their policy response against Taliban on this issue. So I'm very glad, very happy that ICC came up with this thing, and it will certainly going to strengthen international organization to be more stringent and strict towards Taliban in order to deal with the gender issue.
The Taliban's top leadership, including Akhundzada and Haqqani, are now facing international legal scrutiny for their roles in institutionalizing gender oppression. The ICC's action is being viewed as a test of the international community's willingness to respond meaningfully to prolonged and systematic human rights violations in Afghanistan. Moving on, a decisive blow to Pakistan's colonial grip over Balochistan. The Balochistan Liberation Front has concluded Operation Bomb, a province-wide offensive that delivered a level of coordination and scale previously unseen in the decades-long insurgency. With over 84 attacks across 4 districts in just 3 days, the campaign has shifted the balance of power in the region. More than just a military strike, Operation Balm is being hailed as a political awakening, one that's redefining the Baloch struggle for freedom.
Balochistan, a land of untapped wealth and unyielding resistance, has been the site of decades-long insurgency against Pakistani occupation. Since the forced annexation of the sovereign state of Kalat in 1948, the region has witnessed repeated cycles of rebellion and repression. Now the Balochistan Liberation Front has launched its most ambitious offensive yet. From July 9 to July 11th, the BLF unleashed a wave of coordinated guerrilla attacks in Panjgur, Kaj, Kharan and Surab. The targets: Frontier Corps bases, Pakistani Army patrols, ISI and military intelligence operatives, and economic convoys tied to exploitation of Balochistan's mineral wealth. According to BLF spokesperson Gwaram Baloch, at least 50 Pakistani soldiers were killed, with a dozen wounded. In Mushakkil, 9 ISI and military intelligence officers were neutralized in a daring attack on a highway checkpoint, an assault that shook Pakistan's intelligence establishment.
पॉलिटिकल मैसेज है, एक उस जंगी पैगाम से ज्यादा मैं समझता हूं एक सियासी पैगाम है, पॉलिटिकल मैसेज ज्यादा है कि बीएलएफ ने यह दिखाने की कोशिश की है कि पाकिस्तान दुनिया को यह दिखा रहा है कि मेरे पास बलूचिस्तान को कब्जे में रखने की ताकत मौजूद है और बलोचों के पास इतनी ताकत नहीं है कि मेरे इस कब्जे को चैलेंज कर सकें। लेकिन बाम ने यह साबित किया है कि पूरे पाकिस्तान में पूरे बलूचिस्तान में पाकिस्तान का कोई रट नहीं है।
Operation Balm, meaning first light of dawn in Balochi, symbolizes more than just tactical success. It marks a strategic transition in Balochistan, from fragmented skirmishes to a unified province-wide military campaign. It also sends a clear message: Balochistan is no longer willing to operate within Pakistan's colonial frameworks.
हम लोगों ने पाकिस्तान के पार्लियामेंट का बाइकाट किया हुआ है। बाइकाट नहीं बल्कि हम लोग उससे बेजारी का इजहार करते हैं। हमारी एक जद्दोजहद की तारीख रही है। हमारे बुजुर्गों ने, हमसे बड़े जो थे, उन्होंने पाकिस्तानी पार्लियामेंट में जाकर भी सियासत की, लेकिन हम लोगों ने इसका कोई नतीजा नहीं देखा। एक तो जो सिस्टम है वहाँ पर चल रहा है, वहाँ पर बलूचिस्तान की जो एक तारीख है, बलूच कौम की जो एक तारीख है और जो हमारा कल्चर है, जिस तरह हम अपनी जिंदगी गुजारते हैं, तो ये सारी चीजें हमारे लिए बहुत कोशिशें की गई।
For over 7 decades, Balochistan has remained under a system of violent exploitation and political exclusion. Following Pakistan's takeover of the region, the state has treated Balochistan as little more than a resource colony, extracting gas, coal and minerals while offering nothing in return. Despite being the backbone of Pakistan's resource economy, over 70% of Balochistan's population lives below the poverty line. Education, healthcare and infrastructure are virtually non-existent. Projects like CPEC and Gwadar Port, hailed as symbols of development, have become a catalyst of unrest. Locals have been displaced, excluded from jobs and silenced for dissent. The result: development has stalled and the insurgency has intensified. Pakistan's response has been systematic repression, enforced disappearances, extrajudicial killing, targeting of civilians, and demographic engineering. Even peaceful activists like Dr. Mehran Baloch, who campaigned against forced disappearances, have been jailed and tortured.
डॉक्टर मारिंग एक पीसफुल स्ट्रगल कर रहे हैं और ह्यूमन राइट्स पर बात कर रहे हैं। उनका जो बड़ा मुद्दा था, उनका जो उपचार रहते कि होना चाहिए, वो तो ये कहते हैं कि एनफोर्स्ड डिसअपेरेंस जो हैं, जो जबरी गुमशुदगी का एक तरीका पाकिस्तान ने इख्तियार किया है, वो तो क्राइम अगेंस्ट ह्यूमैनिटी है, वो इंसानियत के विरोध एक जुर्म है। और सिर्फ एक शख्स के ऊपर आप नहीं कर रहे हैं। ये डिक्लेयर किया गया है, अक़वाम मुत्तहिदा ने, यूनाइटेड नेशंस ने इस बात को एक्सेप्ट किया है कि अगर आप किसी को अपहरण करके उसको गायब कर दें, तो ये एक तरह से आप क्राइम कर रहे हैं। पूरे में हम तो कहते हैं कि इस पर सिर्फ बलोचों को नहीं बल्कि सारे लोगों को बोलना चाहिए। यूएन के जितने भी मेंबर्स कंट्रीज हैं, उनको इस पर बात करना चाहिए। वैसे उसूल और कानून के हिसाब से तो मेरे ख्याल में मारंग को जेल में डालना नहीं चाहिए था। बिल्कुल इस बात की तवक्को रखनी चाहिए और तवक्को है कि उसे छोड़ा जाए।
Despite mounting casualties and decades of unrest, Islamabad refuses to recognize the political nature of Baloch demand. But the Baloch national movement has made its stance clear: no dialogue without recognition of the right to independence.
In the heart of Pakistan-occupied Gilgit-Baltistan, Gizir district stands as a glaring example of state neglect, masked under false promises of development. Though the region holds immense tourism potential, both locals and visitors continue to suffer due to inadequate infrastructure and complete government indifference. Poor roads, lack of basic amenities, and the absence of planning expose how little Islamabad values the people here. Despite local voices crying out for help, the response from authorities remains silence. What could have been a thriving tourist economy is instead trapped in a cycle of broken roads and broken promises. We have a report.
In Pakistan-occupied Gilgit-Baltistan, Gizer's shattered roads mirror Islamabad's shattered commitments. Tourists arrive with hope only to find dust-choked paths and half-finished construction. Promises of fast-paced development remain hollow headlines. In truth, people are denied basic access as the government continues to flaunt fabricated claims of development. This is not mismanagement, it is systematic sidelining of POGB's needs in favor of flashy optics elsewhere. Gizer's future is being stalled by the very state that claims to develop it.
इसकी कमी है, इस वक्त मसाइल है, इस वक्त की मतलब इस पर काम जारी है, सयाहों की मुश्किलात है, लेकिन चूंकि ये सारी मुश्किलात को बर्दाश्त करके ही आखिरी रुख वो कबूल करता है। इसके अलावा ये है कि सयाहों के बैठने के लिए और दूसरे बचने की इसकी बहुत हद तक कमी है। वो उम्मीद है कि उसका भी अगर महकमा सियाहत होते थे, यहाँ पे जितने भी पिकनिक स्पॉट है वहाँ पे कुछ हट्स बनाए, फैसिलिटीज दे, फैमिलीज के आने के लिए, सयाहों के आने के लिए, वो सभी सियाहत बहुत फायदा हो।
Even the basics are missing in Pakistan-occupied Gilgit-Baltistan's Gizer district. No food stalls, no shops, not even clean water for visiting tourists. People are forced to haul supplies from distant towns. This is a disgrace in a region touted as a tourist paradise. This neglect is not accidental. It reflects Pakistan's chronic disregard for POGB's development. While the state exploits the region's resources, it offers nothing in return to its people, not even the dignity of proper facilities.
यहाँ पर जो लोग सिर्फ पढ़ने के लिए आते हैं, न कोई कानून है, इसका कोई बंदोबस्त है, न और कोई चीजें, अपने साथ सब जल्दी से आइए इसे लेकर आना पड़ता। हमारे लोगों को चाहिए कि साथ साथ ऐसे अच्छी जगहों में दरिया के किनारे और इन जगहों में खाने पीने के लिए सियाहों के लिए जो सियाहत के तरस आते हैं उनके लिए मैसर होनी चाहिए। जब तक लोगों में ये शौक नहीं आएगा तो इस प्रोग्राम के लिए कोई नजर नहीं आता।
What is unfolding in Gizer is not an isolated failure. It is a symptom of systemic mismanagement across Pakistan-occupied Gilgit-Baltistan. From crumbling infrastructure to non-existent public services, POGB has long been treated as a political trophy rather than a region in need of real governance. The neglect of Gizer's tourism potential, the exploitation of local resources, and the silence on basic civic needs all expose the truth. Islamabad has no plan for development, only control. For the people of POGB, neglect has become the norm and accountability a distant dream.
And with that, we come to the end of this edition of Newsweek South Asia. We'll be back next week with more news, views, and analysis from the subcontinent. Meanwhile, do keep writing to us at nwsa@anin.com. This is Shivangi Mishra signing off on behalf of the entire team of Newsweek South Asia. Goodbye and take care.